Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Much of what I wanted to say has obviously already been said, but I think that with regard to the resolution and bringing to light the inadequacies, apparent or alleged inadequacies of the military commission, specifically as a former judge advocate and somebody who taught constitutional and criminal law and the laws of war at West Point, I'm a little dismayed by the fact that the military commissions, the military tribunals are being discarded, and I think that this resolution is being brought at a good time for me to ask why. Ask the questions why, what has the military commission and military tribunals process done to merit disregard? What has it done to not get the reputation it's gotten over the years, as was said before, from the Revolution to the Civil War to World War II, and presidents of both parties? Why at this point are we disregarding it? I think that asking those questions at this point is not a matter of partisanship or being the party of no. It's an honest question, and one that I want to a little bit. The answer cannot be, by the way, which I've heard from time to time, that the World Trade Center was not a defense target. It was an act of war, what happened on 9/11, and one that this body endorsed wholly. The questions also, which have been raised before, as Judge Poe brought up venue, I would also bring up other processes and procedures such as evidence, chain of custody, testimony, admissible evidence with or without Miranda. If you agree that evidence was gained from what was classified as torture, what would a judge do in a situation when an objection is made at that point? How can a judge in federal court that's used to a procedure that disallows certain evidence ignore it for this process? Those things are going to be very difficult questions that we need answers to. Jurisdiction, by the way. The difference between Timothy McVeigh and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is, one, at its very core, a question of jurisdiction. How do you answer that question in criminal procedure? Why have we lost faith in the military commissions? What has the military commissions done to lose the trust that this country has given them over the entire course of our history? Mr. Watt talked about the appearance and the actuality of fairness in military commissions. I want to know why that appearance and actuality of fairness is gone. Why is the precedent no longer adequate? And speaking on the note of appearance, when Attorney General Eric Holder testified here before us a few months ago, I asked him the question about Guantanamo and why we couldn't, after having just visited there with other members from this body, the perception of what Guantanamo Bay is and the reality of what it is are two very different things. Anybody that's traveled to Gitmo has seen a facility that's run by our men and women in uniform, something that is akin to any state penitentiary, and one that we can feel safe and secure and confident that everything's being done the right way. And the Attorney General replied to me that the perception is so overwhelming that Guantanamo has to be closed because of the reputation that it's caused us to have with our friends in Europe and abroad, which I disagree with. But taking that for what it's worth, what is Mr. Holder, after he has said and made insinuations, as had the administration, as has many other people on this body, what would be said by our friends across the oceans if the procedural problems that I raised and the evidence and the chain of custody and those type of things, what if those things were found to cause an acquittal of one of these defendants? We've been assured that these cases are going to be a slam dunk. What if they're not? Well, we're told that they'll be re-detained anyway. What kind of perception does that send to the world? That in our federal judicial system, we try people, some could be acquitted or are acquitted, and then we re-detain them anyway. What kind of message does that send to the world? That sends a message to the world that we have a court system that we don't have confidence in, and if we don't have confidence in, it doesn't matter because we're going to just send them to jail anyway, whether it be in America or Guantanamo or wherever. When we have military commissions that can get convictions, that can give due process, which I, by the way, believe that the detainees should have due process. I just don't understand why the military commissions are no longer adequate to do that. And so, Mr. Speaker, or Mr. Chairman, I would yield back just by saying that this resolution, I think, is needed from the standpoint of just answering questions. I don't know why the Judiciary Committee is afraid of asking questions and getting those answers back from the Attorney General, and I hope people vote for it. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you very much, Tom Rooney. May I inquire of you this? Would it be acceptable to you that with some of my staff, I put together the responses to the many questions you've raised, some of which we found very interesting and quite important, and submit to you after the holidays a memo that attempts to address these questions?
Mr. Chairman, I would appreciate that very much. In fact, I traveled to Guantanamo Bay with some of your staff, and but I think that Mr. Holder needs to answer some of the questions too, with regard specifically to the perception. But I do appreciate that very much.
Well, then, with your agreement to receive this memorandum, we will begin working on it, and I thank you for your very perceptive statement.